It is time for knockout qualifying for NASCAR's Sprint Cup Series. We are live in Daytona Beach, Florida at the Daytona International Speedway. One driver that was fast here yesterday, Jamie McMurray. He's with Marty Snyder.
Well, two-time Daytona winner Jamie McMurray was first in practice yesterday. So do you have any idea what to expect in qualifying today?
Well, Marty, I'm not sure what we're going to have here. On one hand, I hope that it rains because we'll be first, but I'd also like to go out. We made a couple of changes to our car to see how it drives in the traffic and how it sucks up. Our plan, Kyle and I are going to get together and see if we can get a couple other guys to commit and stay with you through this first segment and just advance to the second round, because at Talladega, neither one of us made it to round two.
All right, that's the interesting challenge for the Ganassi guys. Find their way into a group that'll get them to the front.
Well, if you want to put some safe bets on the table, the 24, obviously a good one to have this weekend. But, Jeff, we saw some pretty interesting things going on in qualifying back at Talladega. What are we going to see today?
Yeah, more of the same, and probably even intensify a little bit more. We've got weather. I think we've all learned something from Talladega. Each time we do this, we learn a little bit more. We just watch Nationwide do it as well. So yeah, it's going to be wild. You know, it's narrower here, so that shakes things up quite a bit as well. And we're going to try to work with our Hendrick teammates here and get ourselves in a good position. But, boy, it's quite a chess match.
This first round is 25 minutes long. Are we going to see guys sit on pit lane for a long time?
I think so. I don't think anybody wants to be first. You know that first group that goes out really isn't going to get much accomplished. So it's going to be a real waiting game here, more so than I think we've seen in the past. And then each time if you advance, you're only going to wait it out that much longer all the way to the end. So it should be pretty exciting. I'm really excited about this Pepsi paint scheme. Make sure everybody's hashtagging Real Big Summer. Pepsi's got a lot of cool things going on and a lot of great gifts and contests that you can get involved with. So we're thankful of having real sugar in our Pepsi Cola this weekend and having one real big summer.
Yeah, we're going to see some gamesmanship out here, but once everybody commits to the racetrack, hang on.
Very interesting. And we thought the weather could have an impact on the approach of these teams. Track is open. Here they come like a bunch of bees out of the hive. But will they go on track? We about had 2 or 3 of them get together there.
That may be as chaotic as we've seen it when the track session started.
All bets are off. There they go.
But look right there. Jumping out there are the 5 Toyotas from Michael Waltrip Racing and Joe Gibbs Racing. You can see them lined up there, led by Kyle Busch in that 18 car. So they're trying to be the first group to assemble out there in a line. And what they'd love to do is get up to speed and then be able to latch on to another group that maybe is coming off pit road and get that huge burst of air to cut that fast lap.
A lot of different paint schemes this weekend. First car you see in line there, Larry mentioned it, Kyle Busch, Interstate Batteries colors this week. Right behind him, Clint Boyer. Then it's Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth, and still trying to catch up here is Brian Vickers in that 55.
Yeah, I love Kyle Busch's paint scheme this weekend.
It's electric, isn't it?
I love that paint scheme.
And, you know, he won, not necessarily with this particular paint scheme, but with Interstate Batteries as a sponsor earlier this season at Auto Club Speedway in Southern California. And a few more cars pulling off down at the end of pit road.
Well, somebody needed to, because it was completely blocked down there. No one can even leave pit road. Now, there you see the 2 Ford Penske drivers, Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and that's Michael McDowell in that 95 car. That group, actually, they do some testing for Team Penske.
And as you see where they pulled out, they're hoping to fall in line behind these guys that are already up to speed, as Larry said earlier, and get that draft and be able to better what this first group's doing.
And when Jamie McMurray cut the fast lap in practice yesterday, he was the lead car in the second group, catching a draft off of that first bunch. Played it perfectly.
Yeah, this is one of those deals you don't want to be the lead car in the first group because you don't have the speed.
Kyle, I'm not sure Brian Vickers in the 55 is going to be able to catch those other 4 Toyota drivers there. As much as I hate to say it, you're the driver, but Brian Vickers dragged the brake a little bit and get to the front of those Fords that's coming his way.
Brian got left on pit road. We saw it when he drove off pit road. There was a separation that he was not going to make up if they continued to run hard, and obviously they did. But now you see Brian leading the second pack, so Brian's really in a better position leading that second pack, even though he did get left leaving pit road.
He may have just fallen into the catbird seat.
But it's hard for a driver pulling a line to be the quicker that group.
Yes.
Normally, it's the third or fourth
car.
fifth driver in line.
Michael Waltrip also on track in the 66, but he didn't stay up with those Toyotas either. Michael McDowell jumps to the top of the board after this group cycles back by the start-finish line. He's third in line of that second group, Larry.
And look how quick that group passed. They almost couldn't turn to the bottom of the race. Now, what Kyle Busch in the 18 is going to do, he slowed that group down, get them back up to speed, and see if they can do the same thing.
And we see these guys having to go around another group. So if he can catch if Kyle Busch could have caught those two guys running side by side, that would have been impressive.
That's the RCR.
Yes, it
is. All of the Richard Childress Chevrolet drivers plus all their alliances. We saw them practice this yesterday.
So Michael McDowell at the top, and here you look at the tracker. Vickers, Logano, Keselowski, and they've fallen off a little bit going to red as they head back toward the start-finish line.
I wish we could have an overview of the racetrack for the fans at home to see, because there are 4 cars running on the racetrack. And what I mean by that, there's 4 different groups about 20 cars long.
And actually, Ryan Newman has slowed that group down because there's another group coming. They want to be able to catch that group. Right now, they would not be able to cut that fast lap.
Wow.
I think I saw the Landon Castle machine has jumped in with the RCR bunch, and he was running with them yesterday in practice, if I remember right, when he cut that lap inside the top 10, Larry.
And he has a fast car in the draft. He has all year. He finished 12th in the Daytona 500 and 11th at Talladega, which was a career best for him.
We're 5 minutes into this qualifying session, and it's chaotic already.
Oh, yeah. Marty, what are they thinking in the RCR camp? The lead dog right now is Ryan Newman, but they've slowed going into turn 3.
Yeah, you see Ryan Newman leading the very slow parade, Adam. And I asked Austin Dillon, why is Ryan Newman always the guy who leads that group? Because sometimes that driver is really the sacrificial lamb. He gives up his lap time so guys behind him can be faster. He said Ryan leads the group, albeit very slowly right now, because he is the one who finds the group and finds the line that we should run. That's his job. Find the best line, find the fastest car, get us all a fast lap, and we'll all try to get to the front together. So the guy out front is really the Pied Piper.
This is not working right now. The best thing they can do is what I heard on the radio.
Yeah.
Come back to pit road and let's regroup.
So as everyone regroups on track, we will do the same. Stepping aside for a break, more knockout qualifying. Round 1 off and rolling from Daytona. Just over 5 minutes into the opening round of knockout qualifying here at Daytona. You're watching our Fast Friday coverage presented by Aleve, and here's a bunch of Fords trying to get together on track.
I'm going to say something. I bet you never thought you would tune into a qualifying session and see this. Every bit of running 75 miles an hour at Daytona right now.
Leading this group around is Trevor Bayne, won the Daytona 500 in 2011.
Yeah, it's a cat and mouse game of who's trying to become the second group, to be able to catch a group. And right now, no one is willing to be the lead group, to be the Pied Piper.
I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's impressive.
Now, there's the 4 Hendrick Chevrolet drivers. They're lined up, but they're in the boat with everyone else, trying to find a group that wants to make the move to go out there and lead this thing around.
And those 4 Hendrick cars pulling up behind Kevin Harvick, who has an alliance with Hendrick, of course, over at Stewart-Haas Racing.
Now, all 44 drivers, they have logged a lap so far.
What about the Hendrick bunch, Marty?
Well, and here's the other game. It's getting goofy out there. They just told Ryan Newman on the radio there's guys in the RCR group that they really don't want in the group. So they're trying to shuffle those guys out so they may get up to speed. And you see Ryan Newman coming by us on the front stretch now. They've kind of shuffled out some guys they didn't want. So now we have a group that's running, but really they're running because they're trying to get guys out of their group. It's very confusing down here, guys.
Now, it looks like the Richard Childress Racing Chevrolet group that they have went ahead and they've pulled away. It's the 3 Richard Childress drivers. It's the 78 of Martin Truex Jr., the 47 of A.J. Allmendinger, the 7 of Michael Annett, the 36 of Reed Sorton, and to your point earlier, Landon Castle back there in that 40 car.
And right now, if you look bottom left of your screen, they are all tracking faster than the 24th place man right now, the bubble driver of Joe Nemechek.
It'll be interesting to see what kind of times Landon and those guys at the back of this pack, because as you said, this is almost too long a line.
This is going to be quick. And there they go, all of them jumping up inside the top 20. But Michael McDowell stays quickest overall in the session.
Now they're pulling out on each other.
Yeah, you
These
see
guys back there in
Truex
the back.
and Menard both go to the outside lane, and you know that's not going to work.
Yeah, that's not going to help those guys in the middle of the pack.
All right, the reason they slowed down is the spotters told them this group right here with Kyle Busch is coming, and if they didn't slow down, that was going to allow those guys to cut a really fast lap, so they got out of the throttle real quick.
So they slowed down for the block.
But that group
that's
of
what it's about.
Toyotas broke up too.
Yes.
And that may very well be the reason they broke up, is because they realized the group from Richard Childress Racing was onto their plan, and they said, let's shut it down.
Honestly, this looks more like the last 10 or 15 kilometers of the Tour de France. Who's going to break out of the pack and go to the front? You know what I mean? We're just, and what they call it, what they call it when they ride together. Come on, it's got a name. It's Peloton. That's good.
I was going with pack.
Yeah, well, that's motorcycles.
Hey, the Hendrick cars have just jumped to the top. Jimmy Johnson, who was outside the top 40 yesterday in practice, leads the way. Right behind him, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon, and then a couple of Fords, Greg Biffle and Carl Edwards, the teammates over at Roush Fenway.
Now, what Newman and the 31 will try to do is keep his group together, let this group of Ford drivers get away, and then they'll get back up to speed again.
And those Ford drivers tracking pretty good right now. You can see much faster than 24th place Denny Hamlin, who right now sits on the bubble. Just about 10 minutes into the opening round of knockout qualifying here at Daytona. And all those Fords inside the top 15 as they cross the start-finish line, getting into some traffic. We take care of business. 15 minutes remaining in round one. Jimmy Johnson at the top here at the World Center of Racing. Drivers have been predicting when it comes to knockout qualifying, it's a matter of time at the speedways before we have an accident, and we just about had a big one.
Kyle and I both were about to jump up on top of the desk here because it was about ugly, because I have no idea who it was, but they looked like they were 100 miles an hour quicker than the car they were about to go by.
Yeah, I think it was the 98 cars. That's Josh.
Josh Wise.
Yeah, I think Josh caught a car, went to the inside going into turn 3, and caught a car, had to go to the outside and then back through the inside. That was crazy.
Coming off of turn 4. That's Ryan Truex in the middle in the 83.
And he's still coming.
Right behind his teammate Alex Bowman in the 23 there.
That's coming off. What Larry and I were watching was going in turn 3 right before that little clip right there, and it was. But you get that head of steam up, and you're a Ryan Truex. You've got to keep going. You've got to get that lap in.
How important is knockout qualifying? Give you an idea. You see the two Ganassi cars here. The one of Jamie McMurray right behind him, teammate Kyle Larson. They were 1-2 in practice yesterday, and when we talked to Jamie McMurray earlier today, Larry, he said he actually went back and watched video of knockout qualifying at Talladega just to get his mind focused on how this process works.
And right now, and as he told us, our hopes would be to get hooked up with the Hendrick Chevrolet drivers or the Stewart-Haas Chevrolet drivers. But the configuration they're in right now, they're not, that you can see they're way off of even 24th. They're just, you're not going to cut a fast lap doing what they're doing right here.
And our focus a lot of times when we do these sessions, Kyle, in round one, how many laps you're running, because you don't want to put cycles on your tires and get your engine worn. We're seeing a lot of laps by nature here, but what about tire fall off at Daytona? Worry about that at all?
I'm not worried about tire fall off. These guys are not taped up like they usually are qualifying. The draft overcomes every bit of that.
Okay.
These guys are searching for one thing and one thing alone. It's all about draft. That's why we saw them riding around at 115 or 20 miles an hour waiting on each other.
Money lap right here, bud.
Now, Joe Nemechek needs to be inside the top 36 after round one, or he knows he will go home. Nemechek right now in the 23rd position. He's out there with the Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas of Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin.
Still with you. 11-18 still with you.
Oh, my
God. And they have to dig low there as Kurt Busch is in the middle of the track.
They came with you.
Yeah, this is a little bit maybe of co-opetition between the Toyota drivers trying to help Joe Nemechek just a little bit.
Nemechek actually going to drop down to 25th. Kyle Busch benefited from that cycle as he goes up to 20th and Denny Hamlin's 18th.
But if they had not caught Kurt Busch in that position, I think Nemechek would have been 16th or 17th. I think that hurt him. You've got to check up, and you know, no matter what, these guys want those blistering laps. But when they're 3 wide in the corner, you know, this place is a narrow place. It's only 40 feet wide in the corners, and that's not very wide when you're dodging people that are running 30 or 40 miles an hour slower than you are.
But the good news for Joe Nemechek in that 29 car, even though he's not in the top 24, right now with 11.5 minutes to go, he's 25th, which would put him in the show tomorrow night.
Some of the big names outside the top 25. You see them on the right side of your screen now. Austin Dillon, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Newman, all those cars from Richard Childress Racing. Matt Kenseth is back there. Jamie McMurray, Kyle Larson, a number of drivers looking for speed. And here comes the RCR bunch tracking pretty good, and they all jump inside the top 20. But then that takes a shuffle as others complete their lap. Allmendinger goes up to 16th, and that puts Bobby Labonte driving the 33 car this weekend back down to 24th and on the bubble.
And that whole pack shuffles Nemechek to 36th.
Yeah, and
Right
Menard was the quickest of that group, and as you can see, he's the last car in line in that yellow 27.
Just over 10 minutes to go in round 1 of knockout qualifying. Jimmy Johnson is at the top. Right behind him, a couple of his Hendrick teammates, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jeff Gordon. Then you've got Greg Biffle and Carl Edwards completing the top 5.
Yeah, Joe Nemechek now 38th, so
Yes.
he's outside the top 36 in his 29 car. So he's going to need some help.
David Gilliland just jumped to the top of the board. Right behind him, Reed Sorensen, Landon Castle, Bobby Labonte, drop kicking Jimmy Johnson to 5th. The drama is building at Daytona. We take a break, and we send it to Los Angeles for a Fox Sports Live news update. Here's Alan Massengale. The clock has gone under 10 minutes. Here come the Penske cars right up the middle. Brad Keselowski in front of Michael McDowell, and then his Team Penske teammate Joey Logano right behind. See the 29 of Joe Nemechek, who at some point here is going to have to latch on to anybody he can to get some help in the draft, because with less than 10 minutes to go, there's some big name drivers probably going to bail on this session, Larry.
And right now, when you look at those two Team Penske Ford drivers, the Keselowski and Logano with Michael McDowell, as well as Trevor Bayne, they are just outside that top 24.
On the bubble right now is A.J. Allmendinger. And you mentioned those drivers from Team Penske. Brad Keselowski's 26th. Joey Logano is 28th. Trevor Bayne, the first driver on the outside looking in, 25th at this stage.
You know, Joey Logano in that 22 car, I was reading earlier this week that he has made final round of knockout qualifying 14 of 15 times. The lone exception, Talladega.
Yeah.
Hey, right now, as we're sitting here with and the group we're watching on the racetrack, we have 25 cars on pit road. We had all 44 or 45 out there for a while. So these guys that are trying to make up some time, it's going to get tougher because there's fewer cars on the racetrack for them to be able to draft off of. You look at Gilliland, Sorensen, and Castle, they're going to move to the next round.
Yes,
That's
sir.
how simple it is. That's a great move by those guys.
They may fall,
Yeah,
but they're not going to fall that far
No.
in 8 minutes. Who's going to advance? Who's not going to advance? We'll check it out when we return to Daytona. Our Fast Friday coverage from the World Center of Racing, presented by Aleve. Happy 4th of July. Thanks for spending part of your holiday with us here at Daytona International Speedway. Just over 7 minutes remaining in round 1 of knockout qualifying. Let's head down to pit road, get a report from Chris Neville.
Well, Adam, both Jamie McMurray, Kyle Larson, very quick yesterday. Jamie McMurray was the quickest in yesterday's practice, and that group was going to try and hang out with the Hendrick drivers in that first run, but everything seemed to get broken up because of congestion. And those two, they've been trying to make other runs out there. I think 3 attempts now, but every time they try and hook up and make a run, they run into slower traffic out there. So as we're down to about 6 minutes, 45 seconds left, those two, very quick yesterday, still haven't really posted a lap today.
And Chris, I would say the Hendrick drivers are done. Jimmy Johnson right now is 5th. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 7th. Gordon in the top 10. Casey Kane is 14th. He's got to be feeling pretty safe at this stage.
If this group, if they don't pick up some speed, they're going to roll off the banking. They've just about stopped over there.
See, Josh Wise has slid in with them. Denny Hamlin is there, and 2-time Sprint Cup champion Terry Labonte also joining this group.
Yeah, there's just you got one group riding up on the banking of those 6 drivers, and then look at the bottom, and it's like, okay, who's going to make the move here and go where we can maybe get lined up and try to run you guys down?
Wow.
Well, there are some big name drivers.
Larson is holding them back. He's going to make sure that group on the inside, they're not going to go back out on the racetrack.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Terry Labonte has abandoned ship. He will come down pit road. All those Fords will, and now the Chevrolets join them, including that group from Ganassi Racing. And Denny Hamlin also going to come back down the pit lane. And this has got to be frustrating, Marty.
Behind you, that's the 3 car.
Well, guys, a lot of frustrated drivers. You can hear them on the radio. The busiest guys are actually the spotters. Denny Hamlin communicating with his spotters saying, let's get these guys together. We can all get in if we can get a group that's willing to run together. But there's more politicking to keep guys outside of the top 24 than trying to get into the top 24, it seems like.
At what point, Kyle, does going out, turning a hot lap and advancing not become worth it? I mean, 5 minutes left in this session. And you want to start up front, but you also know tomorrow night there's going to be a lot of movement front to back. You don't want to take a chance on wrecking at this stage, do you? Just so you can advance from round 1 to round 2, or is it that important?
Well, at this stage, you're not going to take a chance on wrecking because there's nobody on the racetrack. You're by yourself. You know what I mean? I mean, not like the packs we saw in the beginning.
Sure.
But I think you see somebody's already got into each other here. That's a 36 car of Reed Sorensen. But when you go through this, it is, we talked about tape, we talk about tires. Throw all that out the window. Doesn't make any difference. If there's nobody on the racetrack, there's no reason to go out.
Considering Reed Sorensen is 2nd quickest and Landon Castle is 3rd quickest, I think I know where the damage on Reed Sorensen's car came from.
Yes, and you see that right front right there, right around the number on the 40 car. It looked like it was scuffed up a little bit.
That's easy to fix under the circumstances. And how about some of the drivers that you saw there in the top 10? I mean, David Gilliland is quickest from Front Row Motorsports. His teammate David Reagan, who won here in this race in 2011, is 8th right now. You mentioned Reed Sorensen, Landon Castle up there, and Bobby Labonte, who hasn't been racing hardly at all this year, is in the top 5.
Now, it looks like a driver just left, but I think you want to watch the clock up here, because I think what will happen, they're going to wait it out and try to time it where they only make one lap here.
Yeah, and you know, this has got to be, I've never been in this position, but it's got to be extremely frustrating from a driver's point of view to know you've got a pretty good race car, to know you've got a fast race car, but you can't run fast enough by yourself. You've got to have help, and there's nobody willing to go out and run with you and help you.
Well, there's the driver that was 2nd quickest yesterday, Kyle Larson, in his 42. Right now, he's 35th in this practice session, but I just think these guys are going to wait it out, maybe somewhere down around a minute, 15 minute, 20 seconds. That will allow them to start a lap and only complete 1 lap.
Daytona, 2.5 miles in length, just like Pocono Raceway. But that's the only thing that they have in common. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series teams heading back to Pennsylvania first weekend of August. If you would like to join us for the 400-miler on August 3rd, you can do so by going to PoconoRaceway.com. And this, one of the big races between now and the chase, as drivers try to get a victory and lock a position into NASCAR's version of the playoffs.
It's a poker game down there right now. It's when to hold them and when to fold them.
Look at Joey trying to weave his way through there. I mean, all these guys are just weaving around cars that are blocked.
They're out in the grass and everything.
Yeah, I do think at some point in time, I will say this, I do think at some point in time that whether it's NASCAR or the officials or the drivers have to address the fact to leave a lane open. Leave a lane open at the end, because you can't just block a guy that wants to go out. But we saw right there, pit road was almost blocked. They did a good job of opening up that outside lane.
Now, I like that group that we just saw right there with Carl Edwards in that 99, and I think it was Jamie McMurray in the 1, because I think they're just far enough back. If this line right here really gets up some speed, then I think we may see a pretty quick lap out of that group.
Let's quickly hear from Brian Vickers, Marty.
Yeah, and he's a good example of a guy 30th right now and just saying it's just not worth it. Have you ever seen anything like this, and how frustrating is it behind the wheel?
Yeah, I mean, what a mess this is. I mean, what do you do? I mean, there's cars going every different way. There's some going 200, some going 30, and it's just I mean, I can't believe somebody has a wreck. To be honest with you, you know, we had a plan to try to get a lap with some teammates, and it just kind of didn't pan out, and one thing led to another. And my biggest concern was to make sure that Florida State University national champions Aaron's car was in the race. And you know, I think once the green flag drops tomorrow, there's going to be a lot of options. You know how Super Speedway racing is. You're going to go to the front to the back. So I'm not too worried about it at this point. But you just got to keep this car in one piece.
As I said, right now 30th, and as he said on his team radio, guys, it just isn't worth it. Nobody's playing along. Not worth it staying out here.
Did you just see what Michael Waltrip in that black 66 did with that group behind him? He saw that group of 4 drivers coming. He just locked it down. I don't see nothing happening now in these last 45 seconds.
No, but I will say this, as Brian was alluding to the frustration as there's only 39, 38 seconds left. You know what? Everybody had the same opportunity. Everybody had the same 25 minutes. Some guys made it work. Some guys didn't make it work because of the way their plan fell apart. And we heard Brian say, our plan basically fell apart.
All right, this group that just crossed the start-finish line, they will get to complete this lap with 20 seconds to go.
Yep, all you have to do is get across the start-finish line before time expires. You don't have to complete your lap, and all these drivers did that comfortably as we go under 10 seconds remaining in round 1.
And the 4th driver in line, we keep talking about him, Joe Nemechek in that 29 car. He needs to gain about 4 or 5 spots on this lap if he wants to race in this 400-mile race tomorrow.
Everybody is good to come back.
So these drivers have been confirmed. The lap will count.
Who's the 5th car right there?
That's Justin Allgaier in the 51 car, I think, isn't it, Kyle?
Yes, it is.
Fifth in line. He got a good run going into turn 3. Let's be interesting to see what his time is.
Allgaier 31st.
No
quicker.
No quicker.
And Joe Nemechek stays in the 41st position. So Nemechek will not be able to race here tomorrow night. Disappointment for RAB Racing, who was looking to make their first Sprint Cup Series start of 2014. There you see the 29 car.
Even though that pack got up to speed, I don't think they got up to speed with enough time left to run it. It's almost like they needed their 2nd lap to be able to help the Nemecheks or those guys.
And we know this is a different story from anywhere we go, but to me, Joey Logano, 40 different qualifying sessions. He's finished in the top 3 19 times. He's 28th after that round.
1 week after the Penske cars swept the front row at Kentucky, both miss out on an opportunity to advance out of round 1. Joey Logano 6th in practice yesterday. In fact, 5 of the top 6 in practice yesterday failed to advance. The lone that did is Jeff Gordon. Here's how they'll line up 25 to 43 tomorrow.
Well, and we were naming a lot of these drivers that were driving off into the garage area, but there you see Kyle Larson, Jamie McMurray, the 2 Chevrolet drivers from Chip Ganassi. They were the quickest yesterday.
Denny Hamlin, who won the last time we went restrictor plate racing, Talladega, was 2nd here in February. Also going to have a long way to go when the green flag goes in the air tomorrow night. And the lone driver not to qualify, Joe Nemechek. The good news is round 1 of qualifying is complete. The bad news, a shower has moved into Daytona Beach, Florida, so we sit and wait. Hopefully going to get this track dry and continue on with knockout qualifying for Sprint Cup team. Was correct.
Yes.
We have called it. No more qualifying at Daytona. We will use round 1 to set the field for round 18 tomorrow night.
But just think about David Gilliland. Yeah, he gets to lead the field to the green, but when we come back here in February, he will be in the 2015
Yes,
Sprint Unlimited race as a pole winner of 2014.
That is big for that team. Congratulations to David and to that whole team. David Reagan back there in 8th. Great plan for those guys that they executed.
And I will say this is what is great about the new format of qualifying, because with rain in Daytona today, old format 2.5 hours, we never would have got to qualify. Today we did, and now we deliver our Golden Corral starting grid. And on the front row, who would have believed it? David Gilliland, for the 3rd time in his career, going to lead him to the green flag alongside Reed Sorensen.
Just look at these first 2 rows. Were any of our conversations surrounding those 4 drivers prior to this qualifying session?
Not on my list.
To quote Bill Murray from Caddyshack, it is the true Cinderella story in qualifying today. There you see Jimmy Johnson going to start in the 5th position, and to his right, 2-time Daytona 500 winner Matt Kenseth.
Some of the drivers we talked about much earlier in the show looking for that first win of 2014. You've got Greg Biffle, Tony Stewart, Casey Kane, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., just to name a few, not to mention Eric Almirola.
Yeah, that's 4 Fords in that group right there. Obviously, the Roush organization and Richard Petty Motorsports had a plan. Seemed to work. Marcus Ambrose right behind them. Seemed to work good for those guys.
A bunch of RCR drivers here. Newman, Truex, you got Menard, Mears, Allmendinger, Dillon. They're either a Richard Childress racing car or have an affiliation with the group.
Yeah, and they cut that lap running together as we saw at Talladega. And talked about Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano. They'll start nose to tail. Outside the top 24, Danica Patrick back there on row 15.
Yeah, and I think from here back is almost the guys whose plan did not work. They either got caught by somebody slowing down or getting in their way. We see Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch. We see Kyle Larson, Jamie McMurray on the same row. We know they had a plan. It just didn't work out for these guys.
Yeah, if you were reading the starting lineup, you wouldn't know if you had it upside down or not, or what the
Somebody's going to think they inverted the field here.
Kurt Busch looking for his first career restrictor plate win. Got a long way to go, and it'll be fun to watch Michael Waltrip tomorrow night, starting back on row 20. He's going to have some ground to make up, but he's won here 3 times in his career. Let's go to Chris.
Oh, and David Gilliland getting his 3rd pole, but the first pole for Front Row Motorsports. You know, we didn't see a lot of cooperation going on the racetrack, but you and your teammates were one group that got it done.
Yeah. I can't wait to talk to Bob Jenkins. We finally are on the front row, so we're excited about that. Obviously, restrictor plates are our strong suit as an organization, and you know, Bob Jenkins, everybody at front row that works so hard to make these cars so fast. You know, Speedway Racing, it's a tribute to them. And just out there today, it was crazy. It was wild. It was chaos. I hope everybody enjoyed it on TV. It was crazy. I mean, you don't know really what to do, and you know, you got to get a good run to make a good lap. So you know, really just got to thank Love's Travel Stops for being on board. We got a special camouflage paint scheme this weekend and support our military, and we've had some great veterans sign the hood, and some Medal of Honor recipients today come and sign it. So I think that's what made it happen. So we're really honored to be able to run this car this weekend and feel extra special, and we're going to have a good starting spot tomorrow night.
Yeah, and that pole that you guys get here today, that's important for when we come back here next February.
Yeah, it is. It's extra important. I mean, it's a huge shot in the arm for Front Row Motorsports. Like I said, everybody works so hard, and February is going to be a little bit different. So we're excited about that, and we feel really, really good about tomorrow. No matter how we qualify today, after running yesterday, Frank Kerr, my crew chief, he's worked really hard on this car, and all my guys, and I feel like we have a great shot at, just as good a shot at winning the race tomorrow as anybody, and that's a good feeling.
Well, congratulations to these guys.
That's going to do it from Daytona. As we look at our Alive menu, NASCAR Race Day tomorrow on Fox Sports 2, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and following round 18, NASCAR Victory Lane, Fox Sports 1. It happens at 11:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. Congratulations, David Gilliland. You're on the pole for the Coke Zero 400. Right